Morning to all. Welcome to Blue Star English Higher Secondary School. Today we're going to see a new chapter. That new unit is unit number 8 and chapter number 21. Up to this, we have discussed about the 7 unit has been completed. Now we are going to further in the 8th unit. That is Sale of Goods Act 1930 and Negotiable Instrument 1981. That is Sale of Goods Act 1930. This is the topic we are going to be seeing in this chapter. What is meant by in this chapter? We are going to see about a formation of contract of sale, difference between sale and agreement to sale, types of goods, transfer of ownership, condition and warrant, rights of uppaid and sellers. These are the topics we are going to be seeing in these chapters. First of all, we have to know that introduction. What is in the Sale of Goods Act? What is in the Sale of Goods Act? The goods which has been sold to someone else. That is, I am saying in a general form, the goods which has been sold to them some other ones. That is a third party or the person who is liable to pay for the goods and take over his own name. He is a who is selling the goods. He is called seller. Who is getting the goods is called buyer. When a goods has been getting by then a buyer. That is, யார் பொருளை வாங்குறாரோ அவர் வாங்கிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் அந்த goods he has been procured the goods. Our goods use பண்ண they have any defects or any complaints, they can be raised through the Sale of Goods Act. It is one of the most important act which has been specifically given in these chapters, and this is one of the act is a specific contract which has been government has been implemented. This is an introduction they are selling. Sale of Goods Act is one of the most important act coming under the special contract. The act was passed in the year of 1930. The prior act was governed by, we have studied in chapter 7, that is Indian Contract Act 1872. The contract for the Sale of Goods Act are subject to general legal principles and applicable to all the contract. Hence, they generally provides an Indian Contract Act continuously to the contract of the sale of goods. That is, Sale of Goods Act is considering then a goods has been sold to then some other else. The based on the Indian contractors are providing then a continuous things to the Sale of Goods Act. The new act has been 1987. It has been studied in last chapter. Okay, let us know then a formation of the why the act has been formed for this. The contract of sale of goods. The contract of sale of goods is a contract where the seller transfer or agree to transfer the property or ownership to the goods to the buyer for the price. The term ownership is the utmost important in the sale of goods. That is, the transfer of goods is the ownership transferring to one person to another person. That is, the seller going to be sell their goods and as well as the ownership also transferred to the some other person. That is, for example, they are giving the student how to understand the sales means they're selling the ownership of a goods to the buyer for a price besides of the transfer of the physical possession of a goods. That is, in the terms of money, they were exchanging their goods and also the ownership is transferred to the some other person. A person who are purchasing the goods, the ownership has been transferring to the some other person. Mere the possession of goods does not entitle a person of ownership. The ownership can be totally transferred to the at last the totally transferred to the buyer. Buyerக்கு என்ன ஆயிடுதுன்னு பார்த்தோன்னா அந்த பொருளோட ஃபுல் ஓனர்ஷிப்புமே என்ன ஆயிடுதுன்னு பார்த்தோன்னா டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் ஆயிடுது. டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் ஆகிறதால என்ன நடக்குது அப்படின்னு நீங்க பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் ஆகிறதால you can be get the totally you can be get the more achievement of the goals. Next, the essential of contract. What are the essential of the contract? We need a two person, that is the buyer and seller. Without the buyer, the contract cannot be fulfilled. Without a seller, the contract cannot be fulfilled. So we need both buyer and seller in the contract. A contract of the sales involves the two persons, the seller and the buyer. The buyer and the seller should be two different persons. If a person buys his own goods, there is no sales. On the dissolution of a partnership, when the surplus and assets is included, the goods were distribution among the partners. The court held it is not a sale of the sales tax. The partner whereas themselves join the owner of the goods and they could be both the seller and buyer. That is, the both the seller has to come into a point and sell their goods. That is, seller has to be willing to sell the product and buyer has to accept the product in the terms of money or goods or property, whatever it may be in between the buyer and sellers. It is a two-party contract. Next, transfer of property. The transfer of property in sense means the transferring of one person to another person. That is, the ownership has been transferring to the buyer to and seller. That is, seller to buyer. That is transferation of ownership from one person to another person. To consent of sale, the seller must be transferred or agree to transfer the ownership in the goods to buyer. Here, the transfer is a portion, does not the amount to sale. That is the fulfillment of goods. Next, at the heading is goods. The subject matter of contract of sale must be a goods that executing the money, auctionable claims, immovable property. The terms goods include the all kinds of movable property, stock and share, growing crops, etc. These are the goodwill, trademark, copyright, patent right, etc. is also called as goods. That is, the goods means the transferring of goods. It should be a seenable, it should be a feelable, and also a goodwill trademark also a regarding as goods. You may now know what is meant by goods that should have the property and stock, share, movable. It should be a visible one. It not should be an invisible one. It is invisible one that is considered to be a service, not has to be a goods. Next, price. We have to fix the price for the product where the selling of the product has have the some other price. That is a monetary considering of the goods sold is called price. The goods are exchanging for the goods is only a barter or not to a sale, but it is a goods or sold for the parties. The partly for the money is contract of sale. In the turn over they became the contract. That is the selling of the goods to one person to another person in the terms of price. Then it seems to be a contract. Next, including both the sale and agreement to sale. அதாவது விற்பனைக்கான அக்ரிமெண்ட். அதாவது நான் உனக்கு விற்கிறேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி ஏதாவது ஒரு வாக்கு கொடுத்துட்டாங்க, பை த ரிட்டர்ன்ல கொடுத்துட்டாங்கன்னா that is seems to be a sale. That is agreement to sale. The term contract of a sales including both the sales and agreement to sales, if the property is goods is transferred including to buyers, is called sale. On the another hand, if the transfer of property take place at the future date on a fulfillment of a certain condition, is called agreement to sale. That is future the பொருளை வாங்கிக்கிறேன், but they have the certain conditions on of there is an agreement to sale. These are the difference between sale and agreement to sale. Ownership transfer. In sales, the ownership can be easily transferred to one person to another person. In agreement to sale, the transfer of ownership cannot be transferred. At the end of the ownership will be transferred to the agreement of sale. Next, risk of losses. Here the risk of losses will be a heavily agreement in agreement of sale. In sale, the risk of losses will be reduced because when we are getting the any goods at the time of the sale, we can be in examine in future things what will be happen in agreement sales. There may be in future the goods can be destroyed or falling or damaged, whatever it may be, it can be easily possession in the agreement to sale. Next, consequence of a violating of contract. That is, consequence means where the buyer has to pay the any price, it cannot be sue the goods, it can be sales at the violating of a contract. Here they can be a violator. If a person is then comes or goods has been damaged or it has been shoes, whatever it may be, it will be an agreement. Next, nature of contract. Here the exiting the contract of a contract. Here is an accelerating of contract. Next, insolvency of buyers. What is the insolvency of buyers? Here the in sale the buyer can be get an insolvency. At the times of there is a no retirement, there is a no returns, and there will be a position of goods, there is a custody, like that there will be a insolvency. In future times we may know about the product we can be purchased or not, we have then some of the think over that. Insolvency of seller. Here the seller can be sale at the time of any urgencies or at the time he can be get then a insolvency. In agreement to sale, the insolvency of seller will be a remind of dividend and it not be a ownership, it to be a passed on him. What are the types of goods? There will be a different types of goods, the kind of movable goods, immovable goods, and fixed deposit, dividend, duties of shares, amount, LIC policy, like that. There is a different types of goods. In that we are going to be see the goods can be classified into three categories. First one, exiting goods. Second one, contingent goods. Third one, future goods. In exiting goods, there will be a classification of three things: specific goods, ascertained goods, and unascertained goods. First one, what is exiting goods? Exiting goods are those goods which has been owned or possessed by the seller at the time of contract of sale. the goods are processed, even then a sale of it is pledged. Okay, these are the exiting goods at the time of pledge. So the owner cannot be transferred. They can be classified into 3 types: specific, ascertained, genetic, or unascertained goods. First one, what are the specific goods? Specific goods means we can be donated the specifically at the time of contract. At the buyer, for example, if the buyer is selected the particular variety of sarees at the examine, at the another sarees they are selected, they denoted the specific goods. எனக்கு இந்த புடவை தான் வேணும், எனக்கு இந்த ட்ரெஸ் தான் வேணும், எனக்கு இந்த ஷர்ட்ஸ் தான் வேணும். At the time of billing itself, you are showing that there is an specific goods. What is meant by ascertained goods? Ascertained goods also used as a similar meaning to the specific goods. சிமிலரா இருக்கும், ஆனால் நான் எனக்கு இது பிடிச்சிருக்கு, பரவாயில்ல, நான் இந்த ஷர்ட்டை எடுத்துக்கிறேன், இந்த டேனிஸ் எனக்கு இது ஓகே, ஐ எம் கம்ஃபர்டபுள், மோர் கம்ஃபர்டபுள் டு கெட் த ப்ராடக்ட் ஃபார் திஸ் மச் ஆஃப் ப்ரைஸஸ். அந்த மாதிரி அசர்டைன் சொன்னாலும் தட் இஸ் அன் அசைன்மெண்ட் குட். ஆனால் அசைன்மெண்ட் ஜெனரிக் குட்ஸ்ன்றது எனக்கு ஷர்ட் தேவை, அது என்ன மாதிரியான ஷர்ட் இருந்தாலும் பரவாயில்ல, இட் இஸ் எ பிராண்டட் ஷர்ட் ஆர் அன்பிராண்டட் ஷர்ட், இட் மே பி வாட் எவர் இட் கலர், it seems to be a good for me. That is called unascertained goods. What is meant by future goods? எனக்கு ஃபியூச்சர்ல இந்த நீடட் இந்த பொருள் இப்படிதான் தேவை அப்படின்னு சொல்லி சொன்னா that is an future goods. These goods are there does not process the time of the contract. It will be a manufacturer of product after they enter the contract of agreement. அப்ப எனக்கு இந்த கலர், இந்த டிசைன், இந்த ஷேப்ஸ், இந்த மாடல் இதுதான் தேவைன்றதை நான் ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணி சொன்னா that is called future goods. Next, contingent goods. Contingent goods என்றது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா acquiring of a depend upon a contingency, that is an order. எனக்கு இந்த ஸ்பேர் பார்ட்ஸ் வேணும். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், let us take an example for one car. கார் எடுத்துட்டா I need this color, I need this tire brand, I need this seats cover, I need அந்த மாதிரி சின்ன சின்ன விஷயங்கள் கூட I looking for the branded one. அந்த மாதிரி சொன்னா that is an contingent goods. The contingent goods are classified into, for example, the ordering is placed for the basmati rice. Basmati rice எனக்கு தேவை, ஆனால் நான் சுச்சுவேஷன் 1ல வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா வந்து பாஸ்மதி ரைஸ் ரிசீவ் ஆயிடுச்சு, சேல் இஸ் எக்ஸிக்யூட்டட். ஓகே, எனக்கு பாஸ்மதி தேவை, அது எந்த பிராண்டாக இருந்தாலும் பரவாயில்ல, அது இந்தியா கேட்டாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, இல்லை சாதா பாஸ்மதி ரைஸாக இருந்தாலும் சரி, எந்த கிரேட்டாக இருந்தாலும் பரவாயில்ல, ஐ கேன் கெட். செகண்ட் சுச்சுவேஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஐ டிட் நாட் கெட் பாஸ்மதி ரைஸ், எனக்கு இல்லை, ஆனால் அந்த இடத்துல ஒரு ரைஸின்னு வந்து, அப்போ என் இடத்துல அந்த இடத்துல சேல் நடக்காது. ஏன்னா என்னோட நீடு வந்து பாஸ்மதி ரைஸ் தான். இது என்னோட நீடு ரைஸ்ன்னு போட்டுங்கன்னா அது பாஸ்மதி ரைஸா இருந்தாலும் அக்செப்ட் பண்ணிருப்பேன், பொன்னி ரைஸா இருந்தாலும் அக்செப்ட் பண்ணிருப்பேன். This is a difference of contingent of goods. Next, transfer of ownership. How they are transferring the ownership to one person to another person, and what are the terms and conditions, what are the period of goods the ownership of while transferring. Passing of properties, that is, they can be classified into 3: specific goods, unascertained goods, goods on approval at the time of contract, behind the date of contract. The specific goods are the contract where it is the unconditionable, that is, the specific goods unconditionable ownership வந்து எப்பனாலும் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணலாம். அந்த பொருள் யாருக்கு பிடிக்குதோ, ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் நம்ம கடைக்கு போகிறோம், ஷர்ட் வாங்கலாம்னு கடைக்கு போறோம்னா அந்த இடத்துல வந்து thousands of shirts இருக்கலாம், இல்லை hundreds of shirts இருக்கலாம். எனக்கு 100மே பிடிக்கணும்னு அவசியம் கிடையாது, இல்லை என் ஃப்ரெண்டுக்கும் எனக்கு பிடிச்சதே அவனுக்கும் பிடிக்கணும்னு எந்த அவசியமும் கிடையாது. அப்போ the taste can be different to person to person. So at the time of them getting the goods, this is called specific goods. அப்ப அந்த டைம்ல நான் the delivery time அப்ப the ownership has been transferred to கடைக்காரங்க கிட்ட இருந்து என்கிட்ட, செல்லர் கிட்ட இருந்து பையர் கிட்ட transfer ஆகுது. That is a specific goods. Next, beyond of the date of contract. For example, I am going to buy a new model car. ஒரு கார் நியூ மாடல் வாங்க போறேன். I am going to booking காரை புக் பண்ணிட்டேன். அவங்க என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா நெக்ஸ்ட் மந்த் 14 அன்னைக்கு தான் டெலிவரி அப்படின்னு சொல்றாங்க. அப்ப தட் டைம், அப்ப 14 அன்னைக்கு நான் போயிட்டு என்னோட கார், நான் புக் பண்ண கார் அதே கலர், அதே ஷேப், அதே பிராண்டு, அதே கம்பெனி, அது எல்லாத்தையுமே நான் செக் பண்ணிட்டு நான் என்ன பண்ணுவேன், அன்னைக்கு நான் எடுக்கும் பொழுது தான் இட் கேன் பி டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் இன்டு மை நேம். அப்ப ஐ எம் கோயிங் டு பி செக்கிங் லைக் பெயிண்டிங் குவாலிட்டி, வெயிட் கரெக்டா இருக்கா, ஷேப் கரெக்டா இருக்கா, நான் சொன்ன மாடல் இருக்கா, எல்லாத்தையுமே செக் பண்ணி போட்டோம்னா தட் இஸ் அந்த டேட் ஆஃப் கான்ட்ராக்ட். அந்த டைம்ல தான் என்ன ஆகும்னு பார்த்தோம்னா the delivery status, it can be ownership can be transferred to another person. அடுத்து, when a price is then acceptable, the weight is the testing, does not something. அப்ப நான் சொன்ன மெஷர்ல இல்லை, நான் சொன்ன கலர்ல இல்லைன்னா ஐ எம் ஸ்டில் வெயிட்டிங் ஃபார் த கலர் விச் ஐ எம் கோயிங் டு பி கெட் ஃபார் த சம் அதர் டே. அப்ப நான் சொன்ன கலர்ல இருந்து 14th அன்னைக்கு வரல, it has been arising for the 20th of next month of 20. So next month of 20 I am going to be get the delivery of the car. So the time itself my transfer of name will be transferred. And thank you to all. The section has been end. Have a nice day. Thank you.